The silver ship landed in a field outside of Washington, D.C. on a clear spring morning. It was the first confirmed alien spacecraft to touch Earth soil. Armed forces surrounded the area, but kept their distance as ordered. This was a diplomatic mission. Jack Harrison stood among the welcoming committee, shifting nervously from one foot to the other. As Earth's leading xenobiologist, he had been chosen to help understand these new visitors. His work with dangerous animals made him a natural choice. Still, he felt out of place among the politicians and military officers. The ship's door slid open with a soft hiss. 3 aliens emerged. They looked nothing like humans expected. The tallest had blue skin that seemed to shimmer like water. The second was short with 4 arms and scales that changed color. The third was bulky with gray stone-like skin and small eyes that darted around suspiciously. "I am Ambassador Zorn of the Vixilian Empire," said the blue one. Its voice sounded musical but strangely flat. "This is Science Officer Xel Terra of the Archivian Collective and Security Chief Cracks of the Brontoran Guard. We represent the Galactic Council." President Laura Banks stepped forward. "Welcome to Earth. We are honored by your visit." The aliens followed the humans to a nearby building set up for the historic meeting. Jack walked beside Science Officer Xel Terra, who kept changing colors from green to purple. "Your planet has remarkable biodiversity," Xel Terra said. "We have never seen so many predator species in one ecosystem." "Earth has a complex evolutionary history," Jack replied. "It led to many different survival strategies." During the meeting, the aliens explained that they had been watching Earth for decades. Now that humans had developed faster-than-light communication, the Council had decided to make contact. "We must evaluate if humans are ready to join galactic society," Ambassador Zorn said. "Your history concerns us. You are surprisingly violent for such a small species." Jack noticed that Security Chief Cracks kept one hand near what looked like a weapon on his belt. The stone-faced alien clearly didn't trust humans. President Banks invited the aliens to stay at a specially prepared residence. "We hope you'll learn that humans are peaceful and wish only to share knowledge." As the group walked across the residence grounds, Jack's phone buzzed. His sister was calling. "Excuse me, I need to take this," he said, stepping away from the group. While Jack spoke quietly on his phone, the alien delegation continued toward the building. Suddenly, Cracks let out a sound like rocks grinding together. "Danger! Small predator approaching," he shouted. Everyone froze as a small orange tabby cat trotted across the lawn toward them. It was Marmalade, the residence's resident mouser. Xel Terra changed to bright yellow. "Fascinating. One of your smaller carnivores roams freely." Cracks pulled out his weapon. "Stand back. Earth predators are unpredictable." Jack ended his call and hurried over. "Wait, don't hurt him. That's just a cat." "You allow predators near your dwellings?" Ambassador Zorn asked, moving back. Jack knelt down and made a soft clicking noise. Marmalade trotted over and rubbed against his leg. Jack gently picked up the cat, which started purring loudly. "He's domesticated," Jack explained, scratching behind Marmalade's ears. "Cats have lived with humans for thousands of years. They're pets." All 3 aliens stared in what seemed like shock. Cracks's weapon was still drawn. "You keep predators as companions." Xel Terra's scales flashed between colors rapidly, voluntarily. "Many Earth animals live with humans," Jack said, confused by their reaction. "Dogs, cats, birds, even some reptiles. They're part of our families." Ambassador Zorn made a sound like water bubbling. "In all our galactic travels, we have never encountered a species that domesticates predators. Most civilized beings avoid them entirely." Jack smiled as Marmalade purred in his arms. "Maybe that's one thing that makes humans unique." The aliens looked at each other. This simple Earth welcome had just become much more complicated. The species they had believed primitive had somehow tamed killers and made them companions. What else were these humans capable of? 3 months after first contact, Jack Harrison stood in front of his bathroom mirror adjusting his tie. He never liked formal clothes, but today was special. The Galactic Council had invited Earth to send representatives to their headquarters, and Jack was one of the chosen few. The aliens had spent weeks on Earth, studying humans with a mix of caution and curiosity. They had been especially interested in human-animal relationships. Jack had taken them to zoos, farms, and wildlife reserves. Each visit left the aliens more amazed. "You're going to be late," said Susan Wright, poking her head through his doorway. As Earth's lead diplomat, Susan was in charge of their mission. "The shuttle leaves in 30 minutes. Just making sure I look presentable for the council," Jack replied. "Don't want to embarrass humanity on our first trip to space." Colonel Henry Grant was waiting for them outside. The military advisor had been added to their team at the last minute. "Ready to make history?" he asked, his voice gruff but friendly. The three humans boarded the alien shuttle that would take them to the massive ship waiting in orbit. As they strapped in, Jack felt both excited and nervous. No human had ever traveled beyond the solar system before. "I still can't believe they're this worried about us," Susan said quietly. "We're just one planet in a galaxy of thousands of species." "It's not worry, it's interest," Jack corrected. "Gazelle Terra told me that most species in the Council evolved as prey animals. Their civilizations grew from hiding and cooperating. They find our relationship with predators strange." The journey to Nexus, the Council headquarters, would take 2 weeks. The humans spent their time learning about galactic politics and cultures. One evening, Jack was browsing the ship's database when he found something interesting. "Hey, look at this," he called to Susan and Henry. Information about something called the Mors Panthera. They gathered around his screen. It showed a creature that looked like a cross between a tiger and a wolf, with midnight blue fur that seemed to absorb light. Its eyes glowed yellow, and powerful muscles rippled under its sleek coat. "The most feared predator in the galaxy," Jack read aloud. "Responsible for the deaths of hundreds of colonists on frontier worlds. No known species has ever successfully approached one without being attacked." "Charming," Henry muttered. "Remind me to avoid that planet." Jack scrolled through more information. The Council maintains a protected area for studying them from a distance. They're considered highly intelligent and extremely dangerous. Susan frowned. "Why are you so interested in this creature?" Jack pointed to the screen. "Look at its behavior patterns. The way it marks territory, its hunting techniques, even its body language. It's remarkably similar to big cats on Earth." "You're not thinking what I think you're thinking," Henry said with alarm. Jack grinned. "I'm just curious. Besides, we're just going to attend meetings, right?" The ship finally arrived at Nexus. The humans stood at the viewing window, amazed by the sight. The Council headquarters was built into an asteroid that orbited a bright blue star. Thousands of ships moved around it like bees around a hive. "It's beautiful," Susan whispered. As the ship docked, Ambassador Zorn met them at the arrival bay. "Welcome to Nexus, humans. The Council is eager to meet you." They followed Zorn through wide hallways, filled with aliens of all shapes and sizes. Some looked almost human, while others were completely foreign. Floating gas clouds, crystalline structures, or masses of tentacles. "This is just a small fraction of the species in the galaxy," Zorn explained. "The Council has 47 member species and hundreds of protectorate worlds." Jack was busy looking at everything when he bumped into someone. "Sorry," he said automatically. The alien he had bumped into, a tall, insect-like being, backed away quickly. Other aliens nearby did the same, creating space around the humans. "What's wrong?" Jack asked Zorn. The ambassador's blue skin rippled. "Word has spread about your species' unusual traits. Many find the idea of predator tamers unsettling." Jack exchanged glances with Susan and Henry. Their journey to join the galactic community was just beginning, and it was already more complicated than they had expected. Jack shifted in his seat as the council meeting dragged into its third hour. The Grand Chamber held representatives from all 47 member species. Each sat in sections designed for their specific biology. Some floated in liquid tanks, others perched on high branches. A few even hung upside down from the ceiling. Susan was doing most of the talking for Earth, explaining human history and culture. Colonel Grant added comments about Earth's defense capabilities, careful to sound neither weak nor threatening. Jack was there to answer questions about Earth's biology and ecosystem. So far, no one had asked him anything. A tall, spider-like alien was now discussing trade routes that might include Earth. Jack tried to look interested, but his mind wandered. He noticed several aliens watching him with what seemed like fear or caution. Whenever he made eye contact, they quickly looked away. "We will now break for meal period," announced the council leader, a glowing blue being that looked like a jellyfish. Earth representatives are invited to join the hospitality area. As everyone stood to leave, Jack heard two aliens talking nearby. They were small green creatures with large ears. "It's loose in the lower levels," one whispered. "Security can't get close enough to capture it." "A Moor's Panthera in the council building. How did it get here?" the other asked. "No one knows. They've cleared the entire section and sealed all exits." Jack's heart raced. The deadly predator he had read about was here in the building. He watched the aliens hurry away, then looked for Susan and Grant. They were surrounded by diplomats on the other side of the room. Making a quick decision, Jack slipped away from the crowd. He found a directory panel and searched for information about the building's lower levels. The screen showed a restricted area labeled Research Facilities, several floors down. Jack took an empty elevator and pressed the button for the lowest level he could access. The doors opened to a quiet hallway with blinking red lights along the ceiling. A warning message in multiple languages flashed on the walls. "Danger, restricted area, emergency protocols active." He should turn back. Jack knew that. But curiosity pushed him forward. He was the only human who had ever had a chance to see this legendary creature. As a xenobiologist, how could he resist? Jack followed the flashing lights down several corridors. Soon he heard voices ahead. Peering around a corner, he saw a group of security officers. Chief Cracks was among them, his stone face looking even more serious than usual. "No one enters this section," Cracks ordered. "The containment team is on the way with long-range stun equipment." "But sir," said one officer, "the creature has injured itself trying to break through the barrier. It may need medical attention." "The Moor's Panthera is too dangerous to approach," Cracks replied firmly. "We wait for the specialists." The officers moved away, setting up a perimeter. Jack waited until they were gone, then slipped past their position. The hallway ended at a large storage area. The door was partially open, held in place by a bent metal bar. Jack peered through the gap. The room beyond was dimly lit and filled with large containers. He could hear something moving inside. A scraping sound followed by a low rumble. Taking a deep breath, Jack squeezed through the door opening. The room smelled strange, like ozone, and something musky. He moved quietly between the containers, following the sounds. Then he saw it. In a corner of the room, trapped between large boxes and a wall, was the Moor's Panthera. It was even more impressive than the images he had seen. Larger than a tiger, but with a sleeker build, its dark blue fur seemed to absorb the light around it. Yellow eyes glowed in the darkness. The creature was breathing heavily. It pressed against the wall, growling softly. Jack could see a trail of dark liquid on the floor, the alien equivalent of blood. One of its front paws was held off the ground, clearly injured. Jack stood very still, studying the magnificent animal. To his trained eye, the creature didn't look vicious. It looked scared. The posture, the ear position, the way it backed into the corner, all were classic defensive behaviors, not aggressive ones. In that moment, Jack made a decision that would change galactic history. Instead of retreating, he took a step forward. Jack took another careful step toward the Moor's Panthera. The creature's yellow eyes tracked him, and its rumbling growl grew louder. Behind him, Jack heard shouts. Someone had spotted him. "Human, stop. Come back immediately," a voice called out. Jack ignored it. He remembered his training with big cats on Earth. Direct eye contact was threatening. Quick movements triggered hunting instincts. He lowered his gaze slightly and moved slowly, making himself appear smaller. "Hey there," he said in a soft, even voice. "I'm not going to hurt you." The Moor's Panthera's ears twitched at his voice. The growl lessened slightly, but it still pressed against the wall, watching him warily. "I just want to help with that paw," Jack continued, taking another small step. He was now about 15 feet away from the creature. More shouting erupted behind him. Jack recognized Chief Crax's gravelly voice among them. They were afraid to enter, afraid of the creature, and probably afraid for him. The Moor's Panthera suddenly snarled, showing teeth that gleamed like polished knives. Jack froze. The creature was looking past him, at the commotion by the door. The noise was frightening it. "Everyone be quiet," Jack called over his shoulder. "You're making it worse." Surprisingly, the voices fell silent. Jack returned his attention to the injured predator. He slowly sat down on the floor, making himself less threatening. Then he did something that would become legendary throughout the galaxy. He turned his back to the deadliest predator known to exist. It was a technique he had used with tigers. By turning his back, he showed trust and removed the threat of eye contact. It was also incredibly dangerous. Jack could feel the creature's gaze on his back. He heard it shift position, claws scratching on the floor. His heart pounded, but he kept his breathing steady. Slowly, he turned his head, looking at the Moor's Panthera from the corner of his eye. The creature had relaxed its posture slightly. Its head was tilted, ears forward, the universal sign of curiosity among feline predators. It was no longer growling. "That's it," Jack said softly. "I'm not a threat, just a friend." Carefully, he shifted his body, turning halfway toward the creature. He extended one hand, palm down, toward the floor, not reaching for the predator, just letting it see his hand. The Moor's Panthera stretched its neck forward slightly, sniffing the air. Jack remained perfectly still. Minutes passed in tense silence. Then something remarkable happened. The creature took a limping step toward him, favoring its injured paw. Then another. Jack held his position, barely breathing. The Moor's Panthera approached until it was just a few feet away. Its glowing eyes studied him intently. "Jack," Susan's voice came from the doorway, tight with fear. "Don't move." "It's okay," Jack said quietly. "It's just curious and hurt." The creature lowered its massive head, still watching Jack. It sniffed his outstretched hand. Jack felt hot breath on his skin. One wrong move, one reason for the animal to feel threatened, and those powerful jaws could end his life instantly. Instead, the Moor's Panthera made a soft, rumbling sound. Not a growl, but something gentler. It sank down onto the floor, still keeping its injured paw raised, and settled about 3 feet from Jack. A collective gasp came from the doorway. Jack glanced over to see at least 20 aliens watching in absolute shock. Chief Crax stood with his weapon half raised, frozen in disbelief. Science Officer Xelterra's scales were flashing through colors faster than Jack had ever seen. "It's injured," Jack called softly to them. "The paw. That's why it came in here. It was looking for shelter." "Impossible," Crax whispered. "No one approaches a Moor's Panthera and lives." "I think it's been misunderstood," Jack replied. He slowly reached into his pocket and pulled out a small medical scanner he carried for his xenobiology work. The Moor's Panthera watched but didn't move as he activated it. "There's something embedded in its paw," Jack said, reading the scanner. "Some kind of metal fragment. It must be causing a lot of pain." As if it understood his words, the creature extended its injured paw slightly toward Jack. The gesture was so surprising that Jack heard several aliens gasp again. "I can help," Jack said to the creature, meeting its eyes briefly. But it might hurt a bit more before it feels better. Will you trust me? The Moor's Panthera blinked slowly, a sign of trust among Earth cats. Jack reached toward the injured paw with steady hands. The entire room seemed to hold its breath. Gently, Jack touched the blue fur. It was softer than he expected. The creature tensed but didn't pull away. With careful fingers, Jack examined the wound and found the metal shard. A quick, precise movement, and he extracted it. The Moor's Panthera flinched but didn't attack. "There you go," Jack said, showing the creature the removed shard. "All better now." The Moor's Panthera studied the metal piece, then looked at Jack. It slowly lowered its head and began licking its injured paw. "I don't believe what I'm seeing," Zelterra said, stepping cautiously into the room. "In all recorded history, no one has ever." Jack smiled, still sitting calmly next to the galaxy's most feared predator. Sometimes all it takes is a little understanding. News spread quickly through the council headquarters. Within hours, everyone knew about the human who had touched a Moor's Panthera and lived. Jack found himself suddenly famous, though not everyone saw his actions in a positive light. "The council has called an emergency session," Susan told Jack the next morning. Her expression was tight with worry. "Your little adventure has caused quite a stir." Colonel Grant paced their shared quarters. "What were you thinking? You could have been killed, and now half the aliens here think we're even more dangerous than before." Jack looked up from the data pad he was studying. The Moor's Panthera isn't what everyone thinks. The data on their species is all based on distant observations and attack reports. No one ever tried to understand them. "And now you want to be friends with the galaxy's deadliest killer?" Grant asked. "It's a predator, yes, but it's also an intelligent being," Jack replied. "And it's still down there, injured and alone. They've sealed off the entire section." Susan sighed. "We need to focus on damage control. Some council members are calling for humans to be quarantined. They're saying we're unpredictable and dangerous." "Because I helped an injured animal?" Jack asked. "Because you did something they thought was impossible," Susan explained. "It scares them." The emergency council session was even more crowded than the regular meeting. All 47 species had their full delegations present. When the human team entered, conversation stopped, and all eyes turned to them. The council leader's voice boomed through the chamber. "This session will address the incident involving the human Jack Harrison and the Moor's Panthera specimen. We must determine if this indicates a threat level from humans that requires special containment protocols." Several representatives spoke, their voices growing increasingly alarmed. A tall bird-like alien called for all humans to be placed under observation. A crystalline being suggested Earth be isolated until further study could be completed. Finally, Science Officer Zelterra moved to the center of the chamber. "I have reviewed the security recordings of the incident. While concerning, I believe we are missing a research opportunity. The human showed no fear of the predator. This suggests a unique evolutionary trait worth studying." Jack stepped forward. "With respect, I request permission to continue working with the Moor's Panthera. It needs medical treatment, and I can provide it safely." Gasps and murmurs filled the room. Chief Crack stood. "Absolutely not. The creature must be sedated and removed to a secure facility." "That would be cruel," Jack argued. "It's already frightened and hurt. Adding more trauma could make it truly dangerous." The debate continued for hours. Finally, Ambassador Zorn spoke up. "Perhaps we should see this as a test. If the human can indeed safely interact with the Moor's Panthera, it would provide valuable information about both species." The council leader's tentacles waved thoughtfully. "A controlled study might be acceptable, with proper safeguards." More discussion followed. Eventually, the council reached a compromise. Jack would be allowed to treat and study the Moor's Panthera under strict supervision. Science Officer Zelterra would oversee the project. Chief Cracks would handle security. As they left the chamber, Susan whispered to Jack, I don't know if you just made a breakthrough for human-alien relations or doomed us all. Jack smiled. I'm just helping an animal in need. That's all this ever was. Later that day, Jack returned to the storage area. The Moor's Panthera was still there, now within a force field barrier that allowed Jack to enter but kept the creature contained. Terra and Krax watched from outside. Hello again, Jack said softly as he approached the predator. It was lying on a thermal pad that had been provided, its injured paw looking slightly better. The creature's yellow eyes fixed on him. It made a soft, rumbling sound and lifted its head. Jack sat down nearby, respecting its space. I'm going to call you Midnight, he said, because of your beautiful dark fur. Midnight studied him for a moment, then lowered its head onto its front paws, eyes still watching him. The posture was relaxed, not defensive. Outside the barrier, Xelterra's scales flashed in amazement. Krax stood with his weapon ready, clearly expecting disaster. They don't understand you, Jack told Midnight quietly. But they will. And I think you and I are going to change how the galaxy sees both our species. Weeks passed as Jack worked with Midnight every day. The storage area had been converted into a proper habitat with plants and features similar to the Moor's Panthera's native environment. Jack kept detailed records of everything he observed. The progress is remarkable, Xelterra said one morning as they watched Jack sitting near Midnight. The creature was now comfortable enough to sleep while Jack was present. In just 3 weeks, you've achieved what our scientists thought impossible. Jack smiled. It's about respect. Midnight is intelligent, possibly as intelligent as some sentient species. The problem was that everyone approached with fear or weapons. Midnight's paw had healed nicely. The creature now moved with fluid grace around its enclosure. It had a routine with Jack, first checking his scent, then walking alongside him, and finally settling down for observation or training sessions. Meanwhile, Susan was using Jack's success to improve Earth's standing with the Council. She had arranged demonstrations where Council members could observe Jack and Midnight from a safe distance. Public opinion is shifting, she told Jack after one such session. Some species are fascinated by human-animal bonds. They're reviewing Earth's history of animal domestication with new interest. Colonel Grant had been busy too. I don't want to alarm you, he said one evening as they ate dinner, but I've picked up rumors about a faction that's very interested in your work. Too interested. What do you mean? Jack asked. The Drazak delegation has been asking specific questions about control techniques and training methods, Grant explained. They're a militaristic species, always looking for advantages in border disputes. Jack frowned. Midnight isn't a weapon. This is about understanding, not control. The next day, Jack decided to try something new. He brought a small device that Xelterra had helped him program. It projected simple patterns of light and emitted specific tones. I have a theory, Jack explained to Xelterra. I believe Moor's Panthera communicate through a combination of sounds beyond our hearing range and subtle color changes in their fur. Jack activated the device. It projected a blue-green pattern while emitting a low hum. Midnight immediately focused on it, ears forward and alert. Watch the fur along the neck, Jack said quietly. Sure enough, the dark blue fur seemed to shift, revealing subtle patterns beneath. It's responding to the signal, Xelterra whispered, scales flashing in excitement. Jack adjusted the device. The pattern changed, and Midnight made a soft chirping sound. Then, to their amazement, the creature replicated the light pattern in its fur. It's not just responding, Jack said. It's communicating back. Over the next few days, Jack refined his communication system. He discovered that Midnight could understand simple concepts and respond with surprising complexity. They've been misunderstanding these creatures for centuries, Jack told Susan and Grant. The aggressive behavior was defensive. They were trying to communicate, but no one could understand. Susan looked thoughtful. This could revolutionize how the Council approaches wildlife management on frontier worlds. It also makes your work even more valuable to certain parties, Grant warned. Jack was recording new observations when his access card to Midnight's habitat stopped working. He found Cell Terra waiting outside. The Drazak representatives have requested a private demonstration, Cell Terra explained. The council approved it as a diplomatic courtesy. Jack felt uneasy. I should be there. Midnight isn't comfortable with strangers. They insisted on observing without human influence. Cell Terra said. Their scales showed patterns of concern. I don't like it either, but council protocols must be followed. Later that day, Jack was working in his quarters when Grant burst in. They're gone, he said urgently. Who's gone? Jack asked. The Drazak delegation. Their ship left dock an hour ago, and Midnight is missing from the habitat. Jack felt cold fear. They took Midnight. How is that possible? They had council permission for the private session, Grant explained. They must have planned this from the beginning. Their ship was already prepared for departure. We need to get Midnight back, Jack said, already heading for the door. Grant caught his arm. It's not that simple. The Drazak are a sovereign power. This could trigger a diplomatic crisis. I don't care about diplomacy, Jack said. Midnight trusts me. Being taken by strangers will terrify him. Susan joined them, her face grim. The council is in emergency session. The Drazak are claiming they rescued a dangerous predator from human manipulation. Jack clenched his fists. That's ridiculous. They just want to use Midnight for their own purposes. And that's exactly why we need to be smart about this, Susan said. If we prove the Drazak have ulterior motives, the council will have to act. Jack looked between his teammates, his mind racing. I need to get to Midnight. The Drazak don't understand what they're dealing with. We'll find a way, Grant promised. But we need to be careful. The Drazak won't just hand over what they see as a powerful new weapon. Jack nodded, his expression determined. Midnight isn't a weapon. And they're about to learn that trying to control something you don't understand is very dangerous. The Drazak research station orbited a small moon in a remote star system. Inside, Jack was pushed roughly into a large observation room. 3 days had passed since Midnight's kidnapping. After intense pressure from the council, the Drazak had agreed to a diplomatic visit from the human delegation. You will demonstrate your control methods, said Commander Vex, the lead Drazak scientist. His red scales gleamed under the harsh lights. We have tried everything, but the beast remains uncooperative. Jack looked through the one-way glass wall. Midnight was pacing in a sterile metal cage, clearly agitated. The beautiful blue fur was dull, and Jack could see the creature was not eating well. I told you, it's not about control, Jack said. You can't force cooperation from a Mors Panthera. Then why does it obey you? Commander Vex demanded. What is your secret technique? There is no secret, just mutual respect, Jack replied. He glanced at Susan and Grant, who stood nearby under guard. Susan gave him a subtle nod. Enough talk, Vex said. You will enter the cage and demonstrate your methods. Our scientists will observe and record everything. Jack tried to look frightened. In there. But Midnight is upset now. It might be dangerous. We have stun weapons ready, Vex assured him. If the creature attacks, we will subdue it. That would just make things worse, Jack argued, still pretending to be reluctant. Midnight will see the weapons as a threat. Commander Vex grew impatient. You will enter now, or we will find other ways to motivate you. Jack sighed as if giving in. Fine, but remove all visible weapons, and I need to be alone with Midnight first. Your presence will only make it harder. The Drazak scientists argued among themselves before finally agreeing. They retreated to the observation room with Susan and Grant, leaving Jack alone at the cage door. Ready the recording equipment, Vex ordered. We must capture every detail of the human's technique. In the cage area, Jack took a deep breath. This was their one chance. The plan he had made with Susan and Grant was risky, but they had no other option. Jack keyed in the code they had given him. The cage door slid open. He stepped inside, and the door closed behind him. Midnight immediately turned toward him, yellow eyes glowing. "Hey there," Jack said softly. "It's been a rough few days, hasn't it?" Midnight moved closer, making a low rumbling sound. Jack could see signs of stress in the creature's posture. In the observation room, the Drazak scientists leaned forward eagerly. "See how it approaches him," Vex said. "The human must have implanted some control device during the initial contact." Jack knelt down, speaking quietly to Midnight. "They don't understand us at all, do they? But we understand each other." He reached into his pocket and pulled out the small communication device he had been using in their training sessions. He had convinced the Drazak it was just a tool to record observations. In reality, it was much more. Jack activated the device. It flashed a specific pattern, one he had developed with Midnight that meant friend in danger, need help. Midnight's fur rippled in response, the dark blue color shifting slightly to show understanding. Jack stood up and faced the observation window. "Commander Vex," he called out, "I've been trying to tell you something important about Mors Panthera. They aren't just animals you can control. They're intelligent beings with their own will. Demonstrate the control technique now." Vex demanded through the speaker. "I don't control Midnight," Jack said. "We're partners. And right now, we both want to leave." Jack nodded to Midnight. The creature moved to the cage door and examined the locking mechanism. With surprising precision, Midnight extended a claw and pressed it against a specific point. The Drazak scientists gasped as alarms began blaring. The electronic lock was short-circuiting. "Stop them," Vex shouted. Guards rushed toward the cage area. The door slid open. Jack and Midnight stepped out together, facing the approaching guards. "I wouldn't come any closer," Jack warned. "Remember, you're dealing with the galaxy's deadliest predator. And his friend is pretty dangerous too." 6 months after the incident with the Drazak, Jack stood before the full Galactic Council. The massive chamber was silent as he finished his presentation. In conclusion, the Mors Panthera are not mindless killers, but highly intelligent beings with a complex communication system. They don't want conflict with other species. They just want to be understood and respected. Behind Jack, Midnight sat calmly. The Mors Panthera had grown comfortable in Council headquarters, though only Jack could approach without caution. The sight of them together still amazed most aliens. The Council leader's tentacles waved thoughtfully. "Your research has changed our understanding of a species we feared for generations. And the incident with the Drazak has exposed their secret weapons program." After their escape from the research station, Jack and Midnight had been cornered by Drazak forces. Just when capture seemed certain, Colonel Grant had arrived with a rescue team, including Telterra. The Drazak plot to weaponize the Mors Panthera was revealed to the Council, leading to serious sanctions. "Humans have proven themselves valuable allies," Ambassador Zorn said. "We propose that Earth be granted full Council membership, with a special advisory role on interspecies relations." The vote was nearly unanimous. After the session, Susan joined Jack, her face glowing with pride. "You've done more for human-alien relations than all our diplomacy," she said. "Earth is now respected throughout the galaxy." Jack smiled. "All because I made friends with a cat." "Not just any cat," Grant added, approaching them. "The most feared predator in the galaxy. Though I still prefer dogs, personally." Telterra joined their group, scales shimmering with excitement. "Jack, the Council has approved your proposal for a Mors Panthera conservation and communication program. You'll have full funding and resources." "That's wonderful news," Jack said, reaching down to stroke Midnight's head. The creature made a rumbling sound of contentment. "There's one more thing," Telterra continued. "Your request to bring Midnight to Earth has been approved, with conditions, of course. The Council believes it would be valuable for a small group of Mors Panthera to learn about Earth directly." Jack could hardly believe it. "Midnight can come home with me." As an official ambassador of his species, Cell, Terra confirmed. The first of many exchanges, we hope. 1 year later, Jack sat in his backyard on Earth, watching Midnight play with his orange tabby cat, Marmalade. The two had become unlikely friends, chasing each other through the garden. "They still can't believe it," Susan said, joining Jack with a cup of coffee. After their return to Earth, she had been appointed Earth's official representative to the Council. "Can't believe what?" Jack asked. "That the most feared predator in the galaxy likes to play with toys and enjoys belly rubs," Susan laughed. 3 more Council species have started adopting Earth animals as companions. Jack watched as Midnight gently batted a ball back to Marmalade. They just needed to see that understanding is better than fear. Inside Jack's house, a group of students waited. They were the first class of the new interspecies communication program. Young xenobiologists from Earth and 7 alien worlds, all learning how humans had formed bonds with animals throughout history. "Time to get back to class," Jack said, standing up. As they walked inside, Jack reflected on how much had changed. One simple act, reaching out to help an injured creature instead of fearing it, had transformed humanity's place in the galaxy. Midnight trotted alongside him, blue fur gleaming in the sunlight. The feared Mors Panthera was now a bridge between worlds, proof that even the most different species could find common ground. That evening, as news broadcasts reported on the latest Council decisions, Jack sat on his couch with Midnight curled up beside him. The galaxy's deadliest predator was purring contentedly, head resting on Jack's lap. Sometimes, Jack thought, the universe's greatest mysteries could be solved with the simplest solutions: patience, respect, and the willingness to see beyond fear. Humans had been doing it with Earth's predators for thousands of years. Now they were teaching the galaxy to do the same.